Welcome back to Maitland. We've just eaten some delicious lunch. Now we're back with round 4. Pretty simple transaction, really.
Very much so. Up this next game, we have two very interesting dragon types facing up against each other. Two very uncommon dragons. One of them being the fastest dragon in the game, actually, Dragapult, and the other one being one that was very good in Series 1, Hydreigon.
Yeah, nice little mix-up. You were saying, we like to see some different teams, and we're definitely seeing some different teams here today. But the team's looking nice and varied across the whole board. I think this is, like I say, the time to test things out and enjoy yourself as much as possible at these local events, just because, they are kind of the first step on people's ladder going into some of these
Something I gotta say,
bigger ones, yeah.
that thing is very interesting.
Is it the Bucky shirt?
Besides that, I was talking about the little special move on Chimpa. I don't know if you noticed his little surprise move right there, specifically into this matchup. There we see a haze on Chinpao against Dondozo, so that's gonna be very, it's just for that matchup, right? Like just for that, and like maybe just getting rid of Intimidates for it. So that's gotta be really really good here. But these are two new local players. I have not seen them at any other tournament in the past. Obviously, with the uprise of Scarlet and Violet, we got a whole new surge of players. So it's kind of cool to see some brand new faces up here that we haven't quite seen yet.
Yeah, I mean, my question to you is, when do we think Buckies are going to get into esports? Maybe not Pokemon alone, but like they literally have everything else at their store. You can buy, obviously, delicious fresh barbecue food, gas being very important. Any soda, you can use the cleanest bathroom. Also homewares and other goods. So why not esports sponsorships?
This is sounding more and more like we already are sponsored by them. You're hard plugging Bucky's here.
The crazy thing is I'm not. I just I really enjoy also they've taken their logo. They're in tech 3 years ago. I want to be real. How many people actually heard of a Bucky's?
Yeah,
and now everyone's like, yeah, it's best thing ever.
Yeah, okay, what I like is just that it's such a big gas station. It's kind of like the Walmart of gas stations, where it's you could go to the mom and pop shop the 7-Eleven, or you go to the Bucky's. It's come on, there's no competition really.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, they have fresh jerky. The first time I went there, cause my aunt is from Texas, so they have Bucky's there. I remember the first time I went there, they went ahead and cut the beef jerky. I don't know, they were curating it or something. However they make beef jerky, it was really cool though. At Bucky's, I'm excited for that for sure.
Yeah, you know where we are, Bucky's, and we will be listening to your emails. Thank you very much in advance. But back to the games, that we're looking at. It's going to be Mathew Courtney versus Anthony Sabol. Definitely showing, proving that there's growth in our community, right? We haven't seen these players. You think about who we saw before these breaks. These were not the same players. Already the player roster looking different, looking new, looking a little bit different and foreign. So, being able to dive into those teams, they're two very, very different teams.
So right off the bat, we have Mathew using Fluttermane, Iron Hands, Klefki, Chinpao, Hydreigon, and King Gambit up against Anthony's Dragapult, Dondozo, Tatsugiri, Iron Bundle, Glamora, and Chiyu. So something I do want to point out about Anthony's team is that it's very, very similar to the team that got top 4 at EUIC, except there was a Dragon Knight over the Dragapult. So that was a little adaptation that was made. But something else I also want to point out is that there is a Klefki on Mathew's team, which we've only seen one player really using Klefki to great success, and that was Alberto Lora at the Oceania International Championships, and a few other tournaments he's been really on that. So I'm very interested to see how that is brought here. But if I'm looking at this right now, from the matchup spread alone, I have to give it to Mathew, because the combination of Iron Hands plus screens with Klefki could be very, very hard to disrupt, especially when combined with Haze on Chinpao, and that just kind of shuts down his Dozo. So if I was Anthony, I'd be looking at this and I'd have to take each turn just one step at a time and play very, very carefully to win this.
Yeah, I think the team just seems a lot more balanced for Mathew. Just going to be able to kind of control the board a little bit better, I think. Maybe fourth Anthony into this rough Dondozo Tatsugiri matchup and then go from there. But there's still options, right? You've still got the ability to just go Chiyu Iron Bundle and just tear through teams. So, maybe Chiyu Glamora as well, being able to do that. But looks like we're going to see Dragapult and Dondozo. So not the usual pairing for Dondozo, but that could change very, very quickly as well with Dragapult having access to the U-turn.
So, yeah, that's Dragapult Dondozo up against Klefki and Iron Hands. So kind of like what I was saying, I think that Mathew is on the same wavelength as to what I was kind of talking about, wanting to get up Light Screen Reflect to kind of just make the Iron Hands an unstoppable force. But Mathew actually hard switching out into the Hydreigon here. So the only way this can really get punished is if a Dragon Darts comes out onto the Hydreigon. Otherwise, I love that because obviously Anthony was very incentivized to click Will-O-Wisp given there was an Iron Hands that was previously there the turn before.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really nice switch in. It is, of course, going to do a little bit of damage each turn, but it's not really going to shut things down.
Ooh.
Dondozo getting that substitute up, free of charge. Doesn't even need the help of the Tatsugiri there. This is immediately becoming a massive threat.
So on one hand, it's like you'd like to think that Mathew kind of got that transaction, right? Because he got a Reflect for free. Now you're inside of a prime position to spam Dazzling Gleam or maybe Thunder Wave the Dragapult, kind of do what you want to do. But on the other side of things, Dozo getting that substitute is kind of massive. I'm not gonna lie, because that that substitute right there. So one thing I want to point out, this Dondozo is unaware. So the one that got top 4 at UIC was actually it was oblivious, but it being unaware is actually kind of good for Mathew because the Draco Meteors will be unaffected by the lowered stats. But we actually see here Mathew put a Thunder Wave onto the Dragapult, and if this is a double tap with potentially a Dark Pulse onto that as well, you could just kind of, okay, Draco Meteor coming out into the Protect, so trying to mid-ground going for the Thunder Wave. I guess it comes down to if this Dragapult gets off this Dragon Darts, which it does, and we know how Dragon Darts work, so we know 2 Dragon Darts are going directly into that Dragon-type Hydreigon. Yeah,
Dragon Darts being able to retarget there is really, really big, as Hydreigon takes a whole lot of damage and is going to be looking a little bit worse for after that turn. Of course, these are going to start to add up. I believe it's actually going to be 3 more turns until the burn actually gets it all the way there, but the Hydreigon is certainly struggling. It doesn't feel like it's in a great position, and I think he was really banking on that Thunder Wave just getting the complete effect.
So Willie, the Hydreigon, not having access to like a Dark Pulse, that kind of backfired because if you had Dark Pulse, you had a very, very free play going for Thunder Wave plus Dark Pulse into the Dragapult. Obviously, you're rolling the dice at that point. 25% chance to not move plus 20% chance to flinch with Dark Pulse. But honestly, Anthony made a very, very proactive play with that Protect to just preserve the substitute onto Dondozo. So we're going to see a few things here. So number one, Hydreigon did go for the Protect, and we saw another substitute coming out. So Dondozo not getting any value out of his turn, presumably thinking that its sub was about to go down. Now Hydreigon Protect on this Dragon Darts. So basically the exact same board. I'd say for this one turn in particular, Mathew got the bigger end of the stick here.
Yeah, I mean, but he's still in a position, right, where this Hydreigon's going to go down eventually. The Dondozo still has a substitute up in his face, so it's not very easy to navigate through some of these next few turns. We'll see how he's able to try and get out of it, because at some point, right, even if you do it with the Dragapult, it just brings in Tatsugiri, and Dondozo goes a little bit crazy until you can get that Chien-Pao to haze it. So a lot of work required there, but as Dragapult switches, yeah, I think it knows that it's not going to particularly enjoy some of these turns. There's Tatsugiri, and now the Dondozo is free to start going crazy. We know it's got substitute. We've not seen anything else out of it, though, but Wave Crash Earthquake looking pretty tempting right now.
One thing I do want to note about this Dondozo is that because we saw a substitute Protect, okay, we know it has Wave Crash and Earthquake. Just like you said, it does not currently have access to Order Up. So, you know, it's like, number one, it can't hit Hydreigon for super effective, but that does not matter because you don't really care about that. Like, it's going to feint to burn like a few turns here. You can always just Protect stall if you need to. But, like, the main thing that I kind of want to put, like, a little bit of a spotlight on is that you're not going for Order Ups. You're not getting, like, the attack or speed investment, depending on which Tatsugiri you go with, to kind of snowball this game. So, Dondozo's options are a little bit limited. And I feel like Dondozo is very, very forced to click Protect here, given how that Hydreigon will feint to this burn. Not this turn, but the next turn. But that being said, Mathew could go for a very proactive play and call this, maybe get an Iron Hand switch. And, you know, Mathew needs to start thinking very proactively because I like to call Dondozo the turtle mode, where it's just like you can always just like turtle up. It's like you go hyper offense, you just have just Dozo. And you're like, all right, well, you know, okay, I feel overwhelmed. I'm going to turtle up, beat the turtle, and then you kind of go back into the rest of your hyper offensive team. Yeah,
it definitely feels like this is going to be a long way to go to get rid of the Dondozo right now, especially with the boost from the Commander ability. So, you know, Tatsugiri did its job, got in and tried to slow things down. Yep, let the burn do the work. It makes a lot of sense here.
So something I would have liked to have seen, I totally get why this did not come out. If you really, because you're so far behind right now in Mathew's perspective, I would have actually switched out of Hydreigon, gone into the Iron Hands, and then you know, gone for whatever on Clef Key, maybe Light Screen, maybe Thunder Wave, knowing that Dondozo wanted to go for Protect there, but obviously that gets punished by a substitute, but you had to kind of pick an option. It's like, okay, you can only click Sub or Protect. If you click Sub, I'm going for Draco. If you click Protect, I'm switching out into Iron Hands. But, you know, that Protect was very, very safe, very, very kind of telegraphed. So Mathew loses Hydreigon, obviously, to the burn. And then you have to imagine, yeah, now Chimpao now has a free switch in. So you have to imagine Haze definitely coming out here. At least Chimpao's going to do his job.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a big pivotal turn for the side of Mathew, being able to, of course, just Thunderwave it and haze it. This is going to be a really, really sticky situation for this Dondozo that can then get worn down very quickly. And then it's all about just, maybe just using like Chien Pao plus the Iron Hands at the end to wrap up this game.
Now, something I do want to note into the late game, this is very, very, something like that needs to be said. Because Mathew was unable to get rid of the Dragapult into the late game, Anthony has a fast Will-O-Wisp that outspeeds both Chimpao and Iron Hands inside the back. So that's something that Mathew needs to be very, very wary of like future board position. You can't Sucker Punch it either because it's going to click Will-O-Wisp. So, it's like just that needs to be very, very like mindful, or like Mathew needs to be very, very mindful of that inside the back.
Yeah, the big thing here, though, is that still is a lot of damage from the Wave Crash, right? Like, you spent all this time slowing it down, and sometimes I do worry about Haze as like an answer to Dondozo, right? It's like, yes, you hazed it that turn, but it slapped you for 50% of your health anyway, so you're like, was it worth? Like, it sort of doesn't make sense on some of these hyper-offensive teams, right? Like, yes, you can hold on, but you're just going to get caught out at some point down the line. I think for Mathew, it's all about being able to get this Iron Hands in play. Like, at least the Iron Hands can now start causing problems, but it's just going to be a lot of damage coming down from this Dondozo every single turn.
So two things I'd like to know. Number one, losing Chimpao there, I feel like you maybe could have gone for a read with Protect, and then, switch in Iron Hands. The second thing is I want to retract my statement, what I said earlier about how Dragapult is the fastest thing with Will-O-Wisp, because at that current moment in time, it was it's still paralyzed. So, if Chimpao was still around here, it would be a very, very great game to kind of clean out this. But because Mathew went ahead and let his Chimpao actually go down, that is no longer an option. So, plus or minus 2 Dragapult, because it's paralyzed, is presumably still faster than this Iron Hands. So Dragapult in the back is kind of going to be a problem.
Okay, so this is where the haze starts to pay off, right? I think this is the big pivotal turn where Mathew can swing the game, and it's like a long plan that he's been able to execute, right? So his goal is just Wild Charge the Dondozo, get rid of it, and then immediately Dazzling Gleam the Tatsugiri, single target as well, would be big. But yeah, Dazzling Gleam going before, ooh, that's irritating.
Yeah, that's not what you want to see. Maybe, I don't even think a crit Dazzling Gleam gets this Dozo. Like, let's be real. I was going to say maybe a crit or, something.
That's fine. He doesn't need to Dazzling Gleam now. He can just throw up another Reflect.
Yep, that's totally okay. So I'm thinking worst case, right? Worst case for Anthony, I guess worst case for Mathew, I'll do that one, is that maybe Anthony has something along the lines of the, I would say, Glamora inside the back with like Earth Power. That could be a bit annoying, and then with the Will-O-Wisp, that kind of cleans out the game. But alternatively, best case for Mathew is that there is an Iron Bundle inside the back, and that just gets Drain Punched, and then, Iron Hands kind of wins that. It wins the 2v1 against Dragapult and Iron Bundle. So we will see. So it's Chi-Yu. That's kind of the mid-ground. Yeah,
the Chi-Yu kind of forces him to hit Light Screen for at least a turn here. And it, does mean that when he was thinking about it earlier, right, it's like, you could see him hovering the potential terrestrialization on the Iron Hands. This water one looks real tempting right now, right?
Ooh.
Like, being able to solve that problem.
So it does. But something else I also want to say is that the exact same thing that I was saying at the very start of the game, Mathew identified that's like, okay, wait a minute. So I just have to get Iron Hands to where it's an unkillable position. And it kind of looks like the board is like painted right now, where it's like, okay, so this thing Terra goes, sure, like, it's immune to the Drain Punch. But as we saw right here, Mathew actually went for the read, went for the Drain Punch into the Tatsugiri. You get up both your screens, and now your Iron Hands kind of unkillable right now. Like, there's not much that can stop it. This is going to do, like, nothing because Light Screen. Yeah, that ate up. That's a Draco Meteor, by the way. Tatsugiri based, what, 120 special attack? That's insane. Heat Wave comes out, does a lot of damage. Yeah, actually, that is way too much damage. So, depends how much this Drain Punch does. If this gets a critical hit, it might be able to knock this. No critical hit, though. And, okay, all right, the odds are much, much.
I think the change there is not going Water Terror, right, to try and help you out a little bit more from the Heat Wave. Just taking it, like, face-on neutral is like, ooh. Nobody loved that, but I mean, at some point, right, like Tatsugiri, yeah, it's lowering the special attack. The Chi-Yu is coming in to slowly hurt you, so a lot of work to do with this Iron Hands, and the problem is it can't even Drain Punch one of the best targets for it right now, so yeah, just reset that, and at some point, it's super low, just bring it in and cause problems that way. Literally no ability to Drain Punch right now, so even if you start Wild Charging, you're going to start just hurting yourself with no way to catch that back.
Something I gotta say is I really like how Anthony positioned this board, where there's 2 ghost types right now, so that means that Drain Punch will not be coming out. So this Iron Hands, it's the only way it can get off damage is either Wild Charge or Heavy Slam. And if Wild Charge comes out, it's taking a little bit more chip to protect. I thought this was very, very safe. This is a very, very good play from Anthony here, because as we know, a -2 Dragapult, because it's paralyzed, should still be faster than a neutral nature to Iron Hands without paralysis. If I was Mathew, I would probably be just hoping that this Dragapult gets paralyzed, and then maybe this Heavy Slam does 1,000,000 damage to Chi-Yu, if not Wild Charge. But outside of that, this is looking a little bit grim right now. So Dark Pulse comes out, going to do a lot of damage, gets maybe a flinch, but Will-O-Wisp, this is the main thing, that Will-O-Wisp connects, and yeah, now Iron Hand's job is kind of over, honestly.
Too much for the Iron Hands to do, especially if it's losing health and can't recover any of it as well. We'll get to land that Heavy Slam, not even enough after the Will-O-Wisp to get the knockout there onto the Dragapult, and time is running out for Iron Hands. Slowly but surely, it's going to get worn down. I think Chi-Yu will probably get to polish it off. But, it's going to be a sticky one. Let's see which one gets the honor of the knockout. Not Chi-Yu, it's got to be the Dragapult.
So I wonder if going into Game 2, if maybe a Chin Pao lead could be kind of cool for Mathew. Alternatively, something along the lines of maybe like Fluttermane Chin Pao, or potentially maybe King Gambit Chin Pao. So what I like about Chin Pao, though, is that you force a mind game with the Dragapult. It's like, you want to Will-O-Wisp me because you don't get Sucker Punched, but I can also read into that and click Ice Spinner and you do 1,000,000 damage, and then I can knock you out with Fluttermane. Also, if you look at this Dragapult moveset, it is Dragon Darts, Phantom Force, U-Turn, and Will-O-Wisp. It currently has no way to reliably one-hit knock out the Fluttermane. So that's a very, very interesting kind of adaptation, because I know a lot of Dragapults, they go Choice Band with Terra Blast, with Terra Steel, like Justin Tang used at Regionals. So, something like that is not seen here, though. So I wonder if Fluttermane will be the adaptation from Mathew as the lead, with potentially something else. More of, because I think Mathew just needs to go more in the aggressive in the early game to kind of win this one.
Yeah, I mean, he feels very locked into taking Haze with him to deal with the Dondozo, which I don't mind. It did definitely help him out a little bit there, but it didn't feel like enough. Definitely feels like it's going to be all about the position and being able to play that way. Anthony kind of executed the Dondozo strategy perfectly, just being able to grind it out, get it in, force turns where you have to do awkward things like haze it. So I felt like he was just always in a bit of a driving seat there.
Yeah, I gotta say, by the way, Dragapult kind of put in a lot of work there. Yeah, as we saw, it got off the Will-O-Wisp onto the Hydreigon. It got the Dragon Darts off on Hydreigon. The Will-O-Wisp actually, ironically, ended up really helping out because it just chipped the Hydreigon, allowing Dozo to really timer stall that and bring it down. And then in the end game, it obviously locked up that Will-O-Wisp. So I think Dragapult was very, very cool seeing there. I guess in terms of the dragons playing against each other, Dragapult was the better dragon for this specific game.
Yeah, it felt a lot more impactful than the Hydreigon, which really didn't get any involvement in the game that made it look like a super justified choice. So back to the drawing board for Mathew here, being able to figure something out going into game number 2 and see if he can send us to game 3. But there's that Fluttermane right away. The Beads of Ruin over on the other side, actually going to help it out quite significantly. But this Dondozo could very quickly go into problem-causing mode.
So something I do want to note is that this Fluttermane is actually holding the choice specs. So obviously that means it cannot protect, but it does get access to the Terra Grass Energy Ball, so I think that's just kind of funny. Anthony's not inside the best position right now, but he could be inside a very good one. So realistically, Chi-Yu could totally switch out into Tatsugiri here, and if that were to happen, then a Wave Crash could go out onto the Fluttermane and just knock it out in one shot, and there goes the Fluttermane, which is exactly probably what we see with a Wave Crash or an Earthquake, just some way to capitalize on this, because you don't really like Chi-Yu plus your own Dondozo against an enemy Fluttermane, because they just do 1,000,000 damage to you. So we do know, though, is that this Dondozo is Terra Steel. So I feel like a Terra Steel might be very safe here, because you ensure that you will not be knocked out by the Terra Grass Energy Ball. But let's actually see what happens here. So obviously Dozo turtles up, goes into its with Commander. I think this is exactly what I said. I believe that is Anthony's in-game character. Going for the Terra Steel. Now this is a great play, because you obviously resist the Energy Ball, which Fluttermane could have gone for as well as the Moonblast. So it's just kind of a double defensive threat here.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to see some screens go up, but this one was the light screen, actually. It's going to be interesting. when this Wave Crash comes through. There's the Moonblast missing, so it's all about stopping the Chi-Yu this turn. And Dondozo gets off a monstrous Earthquake here.
And there's notably, notice how different that would have gone if Reflect got set up. Because Mathew would be around for one extra turn. So I want to say that was a very, very good turn one play of switching into Tatsu there and getting off the Earthquake. Because Lightscreen came out, Klefki got no value. You just got O-Code. Fluttermane just took 1,000,000 damage. And now Hydreigon completely walls this Dondozo. So, I mean, that's kind of interesting, actually, now I'm looking at it.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing here, though, is, like, Hydreigon is going to be able to Heat Wave, but he's not getting, like, the same type of attack bonus off it right now unless he Terras. So it really is a tough one. We'll see how much damage this does. The Moonblast, not very effective. The Heat Wave is going to come through, but Dondozo just gets the Earthquake first, right? So, like, Levitate does help, but you just deal with this Fluttermane, so you're now just putting the last 2 out on the board for Mathew.
Yeah, I guess this all kind of depends on what Mathew really has in the back.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh, it's the Tatsugiri.
I thought it missed,
oh.
yeah.
But, like, that's the thing, right?
Oh!
That's actually crazy.
That's huge. Okay, hold up.
Okay, that's actually big.
That changed a little bit. So, wait a minute. What do we see in the back? We saw the Chi-Yu in the back, so we know that's in the back. Presumably something along the lines of either a bundle or the Dragapult. So, King Gambit here with... Do you see that right? That was Black Glasses King Gambit.
Yeah.
So that means that... okay.
It's Dark Terror. Like, I already looked. I was like, is he just going to dodge the Earthquake forever? He's not going to be able to, but... I mean, at this point, right, like, the Dondozo... Has it done enough? It's beaten 2 of them. You know, it really depends on what's in the back and what terrors we get. The big thing here, right, is like if it is Hydreigon, that King Gambit is going to be able to feast off it with a Sucker Punch at some point because it's not going to be able to get away from its Dark typing. So, from its Ghost typing, I apologize.
You know what I would have loved to have seen here? We don't see on the team sheets, but we just saw the moveset of that King Gambit. So we see Brick Break as its 3rd move. If that was potentially something like along the lines of like a Swords Dance, that could change this entire game because then you just have to play a game of, okay, get up 1 SD, Heat Wave, Heat Wave, Heat Wave, kill Tatsugiri and Sucker Punch, and then, you know, you win, or like knock out Tatsugiri rather. But, you know, like basically... we don't really see that. We instead see Brick Break on this, which it is super effective, so that's kind of cool. But you know, it's I don't know. Like the burn does help, but I don't know if that changes much.
Do you think the Dondozo has enough gas in the tank to take on basically this Hydreigon just constantly throwing out super effective moves at it with the combination of Earth Power and Heat Wave? It's definitely going to add up. I mean, the big thing there, right, is like he's not getting any same type of attack bonus. Even if he does hit them, it's still going into Commander Booster. It does feel pretty decent, but that one is definitely hurting a little bit more.
So now what's kind of cool is that if you're Mathew, so I agree with that Protect, knowing that the Hydreigon currently walls the Dondozo, given its only 2 options are to click Earthquake or Wave Crash. So really exploiting the type combination and ability combination of Hydreigon there, making sure Hydreigon just is at its full potential, it cannot be walled. So I really like that combination of doing that and then protecting the King Gambit, knowing that the Hydreigon cannot be attacked, so you just protect your King Gambit, stalling out the game a little bit longer until you get into a good position where you just get as much damage off as possible. So King Gambit actually does go for the Terra here, though, so that will be kind of interesting. I do wonder if this is going for something like a Sucker Punch, and if it is going for a Sucker Punch, if this gets the knockout onto Dondozo, so it is Sucker Punch. If this knocks out Dondozo, then Draco Meteor can come out into Tatsu, which it does knock out, and then let's see what happens here.
Yeah, it's all about the end game here, right? It's like, can Anthony just steady the ship? Was the Dondozo 2-for-1 good enough? Because I think generally the player base as a whole has been getting good enough to be able to try and figure out, you know, how to deal with this. But the big thing here, right? The Tatsugiri is still being around. Yes, it's very frail. Yes, it's choice. Yes, it's going to get Sucker Punched. But what can you do in that turn if it does go that way? So plenty to think about. I think the impetus is still with Mathew. He's got to call these turns right. But being able to deal with the Tatsugiri would have made his life so much easier.
So the question is, do you read the Tatsugiri switching out and do you double tap the Chi-Yu, or do you just Sucker Punch and just collect your KO here? That's the big question. And Anthony's wondering the exact same thing. Do I attack or do I switch out? Because if I switch out, I can bait the Sucker Punch. If I stay in and expect the Sucker Punch to not come out, I can go for a Draco Meteor onto this Hydreigon and just one-hit knockout it.
Well, let's see. The switch would be kind of the giveaway on which way Anthony's gone. But
Draco
no
Meteor.
switch. Yeah, no
Good
switch.
Call. Great call.
It's like, it's tough, right? Because you either force... you force the switch, and it's like, but at any point, right, you still get Sucker Punch. So Mathew reading into that one made it very tough. No hit on the overheat. We'll get to land a Brick Break in return. Not enough for the knockout, but obviously Sucker Punch is there. But the big question is like, what's available at the end? At the end of the game. All we've seen is Dondozo Tatsugiri, and we're still missing the information on one Pokemon. Which, if it's the Dragapult, that's going to be a little bit rough. But if it's something like the bundle, even Glamora could be a little bit better. But of course, you can only Sucker Punch one thing at a time. So let's see how much these can do. The Chi-Yu, oh, he's dodging the Sucker Punch. This could be Anthony just really flexing. It is Dragapult, but if it's Sucker Punch, it's free turn for Dragapult,
I actually did not see it was Scouts. No, it was Sucker Punch.
Yeah.
Okay, yep. So if that's the case, that was a very, very good play. And just getting another Draco off just because, it just chip. You just need to start chipping this thing down quicker and quicker. If I'm Anthony right now, I would feel pretty confident just clicking the Will-O-Wisp onto the Kingambit here from my Dragapult. Just easily get off a little Will-O-Wisp on this guy. You're holding a Focus Sash, so you can afford to miss one. As long as you hit one of the two, you're kind of in a fine position.
Yep.
That's all I'd really be focusing on if I was Anthony. Maybe potentially there is actually a little play you could go for here. You could go for a Dragon Darts this turn because you're Sash. You're guaranteed you'll live the attack. You just get off a little bit of damage because it's a mono dark type, no longer a steel type, and then you could Will-O-Wisp it the following turn. But it really depends on how you want to play this game. I feel like maybe going for Dragon Darts this turn followed by a Will-O-Wisp is technically more optimal because you'll get guaranteed damage off. Plus you force a Sucker Punch Mind Game the following turn. But let's see what Anthony actually chooses to do here. So the switch into Chi-Yu, I thought that was very telegraphed. That was kind of obvious, only because the Tatsugiri was at -4 at that point.
Oh.
Okay, that's good. That's super effective. I think this game is now locked up 100% because that's just you preserve your Focus Sash. That's the big thing.
Yeah, you've still got your Focus Sash. And to be honest, right, at this point, if he's Sucker Punched again, you're not getting either of those targets. Oh, it's going to be Assurance. But even with the Dark Terror, will it be enough onto Tatsugiri? It is. Very comfortably done. But, you can't stop everything going off the following turn, right? Like, he is just going to be able to come in, U-turn you again, and then, follow up with an attack on the Chi-Yu. So it feels pretty safe. It is going to take 2 turns to knock out the Dragapult, and then 1 turn to knock out the Chi-Yu, and you are just not going to be given that opportunity.
I thought that was a very, very good play from Anthony, going for a U-turn out right there, because obviously, number 1, it's super effective. That's the first thing. Number 2, though, is like preserve your Sash if anything but a Sucker Punch came out. If Sucker Punch came out, that's okay. You live. You get a free switch in Chi-Yu, and then it's the exact same thing. You have a Tatsugiri plus your Chi-Yu on the board. It's like you can't stop both these. So I'm just overwhelming you. I'm just playing like all my friends are dead to the Kingambit here. So it's like, because notice how Anthony just played this. He knocked out everything super early on the game with the Klefki, for example. Like a very notable play I want to say was turn 1. If Klefki would have gone for the Reflect instead of the Light Screen, that could have changed the entirety of the game. But that did not come out, so here we are.
Yep. Well, there's the Sucker Punch. That is going to target down into the Chi-Yu. Make sure it gets a knockout there, even though it's not very effective. It is at least a nice, honest 1v1 to wrap up this game. But it looks like Dragapult should be able to get this one to tidy up. Not having the steel typing anymore. Coming back to haunt him. It is going to be 1 more turn required. But, he's got the Focus Sash. You can't double hit him. And even if you Sucker Punch him, he'll cling on and just be able to hit you with anything else to deal with this one.
This is why Focus Sash is just so good. A few of my students, I do coaching. A few of them have asked me how to play a Focus Sash Pokemon, and this is a very, very good highlight of how a really good Sash Pokemon is played, where it's just you get 100% win conditions, where it's like, I know even if I crit, no matter what, if they do 9 million damage, I'm gonna live on 1 HP and just guarantee this game is over. So I thought the Anthony played this amazingly. That would normally knock out, but of course the Sash, just preserving for the very end game to get that 100% win condition against the 1-on-1 against Kingambit. And Dragon Dart's coming out, ending the game.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense, and really nicely done from Anthony. I think he learned a lot from game number 1. I like the way he played game number 2 as well. Being able to use that Dondozo to take out a couple of the nastier threats, right? The Klefki going down early and the Flutter Mane. And once those were gone, he just felt like he was really able to drive the rest of that game home with the couple of Pokemon he had in the back.
Yeah, all in all, I thought it was very well played. That was unfortunately only a 2-turn game. Fortunately for Anthony, unfortunately for Mathew. But regardless, I want to say those were some pretty high quality games. Actually, they were very it was very quick. It was just very kind of just in the beginning, who would get the turn 1 just a turn 1 read right as to if they switch out to Tatsugiri or if you keep Chi-Yu in. And obviously Anthony was very experienced in that mind game, being the Dozo player. So Anthony played that very intelligently.
Yeah, I think both trainers played to the best of their ability, but it always was going to fall in Anthony's favor. So We're going to take a short break and get ready for our last Swiss round as well. And obviously after Swiss, we're going to have a little bit of top cut action to come. So stay tuned. We'll be back here in Maitland.